the left is weak on terrorism. The left is Marxist and is going to destroy Western civilization and all of the above. We hear a lot of that from the right. That's not far off from the truth, but the right has some characters, and those characters are the leading characters in the terrifying horror story of what the political right in America is now and what it seems to be becoming. Tucker Carlson is, I think, the main figure in that new right, woke right, whatever you want to call it. And he is now, actually, I don't want to spoil it with too much of an intro. Welcome to the reality show. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Anders Ingemarson and Daniel Kraus. Let's go to this clip, hear it from Tucker, and then we will discuss.
But you should know, Seth, that the real danger is Sharia law. Sharia law. And you can tell when you go to a place like Abu Dhabi or Riyadh, like, oh man, I hope we don't ever wind up with a society like this with a rape rate of 0, where you leave your keys in your Lamborghini and don't ever worry about it being stolen. And, if people want to get wasted, they do it at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't.
Boy, I hope we don't wind up with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, Sharia law is obviously just a punchline. I don't know that too many people actually believe in the reality of that. And sure, like I said, I'm a lawyer. I actually studied legal philosophy.
Right.
Sharia is not that different from other legal codes. A lot of our own legal code, the Anglo-Saxon common law, Anglo-American common law, derives ultimately from religious authority.
All right. Yeah, Sharia law is just totally like our law because I'm an expert. Trust me, bro. Yeah, but look, first of all, it's so despicable and disgusting to hear that the rape rate is 0 because rape is legal. Like you can rape a woman. That's why it's 0. Like we've talked in the past about, the UAE, the best, in quotes on of those countries, and how Western women who have been raped and went to the police to report that they had been raped got arrested because they had sex outside of wedlock. So in Saudi Arabia is far worse. So yeah, and people want to get wasted. They do it at home. Well, they're committing a crime. That is a crime. Rape is not a crime. Getting wasted is a crime. This is what is an improvement, as far as I can hear from the way Tucker presents it, an improvement to what is the current situation in the US. Anders, am I being unfair to Tucker?
No, I think you're perfectly right in your assessment. If anything, I think you're too nice, but I don't know what language to apply here for that. I mean, the whole approach, when it comes to Tucker, I guess he sees Sharia as a feature, not a bug. No, because I'm sure he would see himself thriving in a society like this. Now, I think his approach is so incredibly cowardly. He's applying this element of irony and trying to be funny about, leaving the keys in your Lamborghini and all this stuff, which are total non-essentials. It's a massive context dropping, as you said, with what this is all about, and then this other gentleman, supposedly a lawyer, he's probably the most inarticulate lawyer I've come across in a long time. I don't know what his name is, who is this, what made him qualify for a spot on Tucker's show. That wasn't really clear from the clip. But anyhow, and again, I've said several times that this is a canary in the coal mine, and Tucker is almost more than a canary in the coal mine now in terms of his anti-Zionism, his enabling of tribalism, of collectivism, of altruism, with the selection of guests that he has on his show. We have talked before about the Nazi historian, and I've written about it. And I don't follow in on a regular basis. But I mean, there's certainly a pattern and a trend here that Tucker is trying to break down what has been on the right in the US a staunch support of Israel against uh, Islamofascism and terrorism, and kind of put a wedge into that. And I think that support for Israel is slowly eroding over here, unfortunately. So, I don't know where we're going. There are certainly a lot of good people on the right who still see this more clearly, but a little by little, Tucker and his ilk are making inroads.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that support is eroding that slowly. We talked a couple of days ago, or talked about, I brought up this, they showed, the most downloaded political podcasts, and there were uh, the top four, two of them from the left, or what is associated with the left, two from the right. And the two from the right were Tucker and Candace. That's what people listen to. Also, I think you answered your own question about what qualifies one to be a guest on the Tucker Carlson show. Yeah, I think that guy showed why he's there in that clip. Daniel.
So the guy's name is Sid Harp. He's a Rolling Stone corresponder. Um, Now going into what he said, well, one sort of even defining Sharia law for those who, because it is sort of a word that is being put out there without oftentimes defining it, and I think defining things is good. It's basically if you take a country like Saudi Arabia, where Sharia law is fully in practice, it pretty much means there is no sort of civil law system. Sharia law is the, let's say, the civic code of the land. Now, what it means is, I will not go into like fully what like Sharia law is, but basically it's the instead of a constitution or something like that, the Quran is basically the final arbiter of what is good or what should be legally enforced. Now, you have a lot of Islamic scholars that basically disagree with each other about what exactly that means in practice. That's why, from one year to the other, Saudi Arabia can allow women to drive, but still can acknowledge or basically have the basic idea of women is the women guardianship system, where they do not are not their own people, which they are not in Saudi Arabia. They need a man or a brother, husband, anybody, father, who are basically their owners and who actually make the important decisions. So when you say, especially, and this is really disgusting coming from supposed conservatives that are supposedly the ones who stand up for the constitutions, of basically saying, oh, this constitution, this English common law that we've been developing for 1,000 years, this constitution that we have been developing for hundreds of years, no, just bring in Quran and let's make our laws based on Quran, because that is how we arrive to the truth. That is the proper way to have a legal system. The fact that Seth brought it up as if the English common law and Sharia law are basically the same thing. I mean, they are same thing in the way that they are legal codes, and that's about it. What is the final arbiter in English common law or in the countries that, let's say, have the tradition of common law? It's some kind of constitution. It's some kind, or in the actual English system, it's a long time laws that have been accepted. What is the final arbiter in Sharia law countries? Quran or Allah? What kind of objectivity, what kind of justice will that bring you? Now, I think he brought up the United Arab Emirates or Abu Dhabi. Yeah, you might not have no free speech, no free elections, no Miranda rights, no basically no presumption of innocence, oftentimes, not even any good way of property rights, but at least taxes are low and you can keep your keys in your Lamborghini. I mean, yeah, once what is that quote? The people who want to trade freedom for security deserve neither. I think it's something like that, and that is the route Tucker Carlson has been going, not for last few days or the last few months, for a long time.
Thank you, Unusual AI, for another unusually large super chat. Unusual AI says, words cannot express my gratitude. Heart, Ayn Rand Center UK. Heart, yeah, words cannot express my gratitude. You know, we are a small shop on a shoestring budget, so this helps a lot. And since words cannot express my gratitude, I will express it with a video of Tucker from the future after Sharia law takes over. Daniel, let's see him, telling the new uh, government what he why they should spare him.
Looks like they'll be finishing up Yes. Why do you know? Oh, we're on your side! We're on your side! Holy shit! What? We're on your side! We're on your fucking side! What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, some white dudes giving a thumbs up to Black Lives Matter rioters back in 2020, getting a rock thrown through their window, which smashes the window. Then they shout to clarify what thumbs up means. We're on your side, we're on your side. And then they get a rock through another window. Yes, I'm sure, Tucker, that this will not happen to you, and they will embrace you with open arms when they take over. Um, okay. Any comments, Anders, or should we go? Yeah, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we'll talk about Sharia law. So when it comes to implementation of Sharia law in Western countries, again, if it ever comes at basically overseeing the actual civil law in the country, that should never happen. If I think to some extent, if Muslim communities wants to set up some of their own like family courts to deal with certain things, I think that might be accepted to some extent, but it should always be with the presumption that the women or the men who are in those laws at any point can basically say, no, 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 we are taking this with the actual government, with the actual laws of this country. And it should never, basically, implementation of Sharia law in Western countries should never include actual repression of women rights, of individual rights, of anybody at all.
Um, Deborah says in the chat, notice all the drink cups. These guys are probably drunk. Well, they were in their house, so under Tucker's version of Sharia law, you're allowed to get wasted indoors. Apparently, I don't think this is exactly how it works in Saudi Arabia, but Anders?
Yeah, I don't know either. I haven't visited Saudi Arabia, nor have I gotten wasted with any consequences. So I really can't comment on that either.
Well, let's Daniel has another clip of Tucker. If you hadn't had enough so far, let's hear some more.
No one can plausibly claim that a Christian family are in Hamas. Okay, so like what? Tell me, you can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly. Which I don't know if that's true. By the way, it seems more like a political organization. But whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al Qaeda. So it can't also be true that Christians are a member of Al Qaeda. Sorry.
Yeah.
So then we know they're not in Hamas. So why did they get killed? Why was their church blown?
Right, I just want to point out I like how the subscribe button was there. So if if Tucker sees an uptick in his subscribers, it might be from the 57 people who are watching right now who hopefully have all liked this show, because we're not going to get to Tucker Carlson numbers if we don't get more engagement. But yeah, Daniel, you wanted to show this clip, so you can tell us why you decided to subject us to it.
Yeah, this comes from where he, and even where what is that women's names again. Megyn Kelly, when she talks about, Tucker cares about the Christians in Palestine, or Christians in Israel, and Tucker always brings it like, why is Israel killing Christians? Oh, well, if Hamas is this Islamist sort of organization, if it's Al Qaeda, which I'm not even sure if anybody says that Hamas is Al Qaeda. I mean, those groups are kind of different in a way, but okay, whatever. Uh, he's acting as if there are no anti-Israeli Christians. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine is was founded by an Orthodox Christian. It is an anti-Israeli Christian organization. Palestinian Christians have played a big role in anti-Israeli rhetoric. So
Uh,
trying to act as if,
the Popular Front,
sorry, no, no, it's a different one.
well,
Wait, let me look it up.
Popular Front is a communist terrorist organization. But yeah,
No, I
they
think,
take all the despicable
yeah,
collectivist.
but it was founded by an Orthodox Christian. So again, trying to completely separate, and we did that episode on I don't remember what the name was, but it was Tucker Carlson and some Christian from the Palestinian territories who was basically full on anti-Israel in absolutely the same exact way. So again, trying to say that if that somehow Christians are these pro-Israeli people in Israel is very much not right.
Yeah, also nobody's targeting Christians. Look, if a church is bombed, it is bombed because it's a building, and inside the building is some activity that would lead to the murder of Jews, and people in Israel, and Israel needs to act there, just like Israel doesn't bomb hospitals because there's, a patient there who happens to be a normal person who's not doing anything wrong. It's because that's where terrorists hide. And they hide there in part because if Israel acts against them as they should, the Tucker Carlsons of the world will say, look, Israel is bombing a church and a hospital and a school. Anders.
Yeah, so this is obviously part of um, mm, Tucker's plan to try to put that wedge between Christian and Jews, and promoting his anti-Zionist agenda. And I think it's important to understand here that there is an element of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So we're talking about Palestinians here. So right now, the tribalist element, being Palestinian, is trumping the religious element, being Christian versus Islamist. And they're kind of united in their hatred of Israel. But I mean, hopefully this will never happen, but let's say that they would get their own territory or country or whatever you want to call it. I mean, the infighting would start on day one, and there is no reason to believe that the Islamists and the Christian Palestinians would stay friends for very long. And I'm sure if you go back and research history and things like that, I mean, we know that the the tribalist elements of Palestinians is very fragmented too. So we have these different tribes within the Palestinian people. It's not like it's a unified front. It's a unified front, perhaps, to a large extent, just because they all hate Israel. But once they would get in charge of their own territory, it would break apart and fragment, and there would be infighting, religiously related, tribalist related. And the fact that the Palestinian authorities today is kind of putting a lid on that in the West Bank, and there is a reason why they haven't had elections since whenever. But there seems to be a myth among some people that the Palestinians are a unified people of some kind, and that is very, very far from the truth.
Yeah, and just on that, so first of all, yeah, Hamas, the last time there was an election, won the election not in Gaza, in the Palestinian territories, Gaza, Judea, Samaria, because the Bush doctrine was we're going to export democracy and everybody's going to vote for a compassionate conservative. But what ended up happening is Hamas won, and the Palestinian authority, well, they were then the Palestinian Authority, but Fatah didn't like that, and they went to war, and they ended up with Hamas in control of Gaza, Fatah in
Mhm.
control of Judea and Samaria, but you don't have to go back that far to see infighting among the Palestinians. Was it today or yesterday that 22 people were killed in Gaza in fighting between Hamas and some of the local families that are now, unfortunately, apparently supported by Israel because Israel never learns the lesson that the enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend and most likely not people we should arm because those arms, after they're used against our enemies, might be turned on us. It might and will be turned on us. But anyway, yeah, this infighting, that is how it works in Palestinian society. Daniel.
Um, some people in the chat were talking about Sharia law and that about its implementation. So I would make 2 points about it. I think it really depends on what specifically do you want to enforce, because I think America has like I think they have like Jewish courts and Christian courts. So if some people want to go to some private court or have some like private arbitrage or do something like that, they are allowed to do that in the US. And I think to some same extent, if some Muslim communities want to do something similar, I think they should be allowed. Now that cannot have any criminal liability. I think criminal things can only be held by U.S. courts and by sort of like Western courts. I know Israel has that problem to some extent with the Bedouin communities in the south, where you have like child marriages or you know girl brides. You have men with multiple wives. When you have things like that, yeah, that should be shut down. There are certain things that shouldn't be allowed even under this sort of private courts. So that's basically, I just want to, it should be on the same way as everything else. Once it starts going crazy, you shut it down. And always the final arbiter should be the UK or US government or US and UK courts, respectively.
Yeah, I don't think you should call it courts, actually. I mean, if there is a kind of arbitration
Private
scenario, but I
arbitration, I
mean,
guess.
we're not talking about. I think it's really, really important to point out that we're not talking about a competing legal system here, a parallel legal system. We're talking about in the U.S. case that's something that is subject to the U.S. Constitution, that is protecting individual rights, and to the extent that these arbitration outfits uh, would violate that, U.S. law takes precedence, and anybody who feels that they have been violated in those courts, take take the violators to court. That's it. Yeah, so be careful not to call it a court system or a competing. And I don't imply that that's what you meant, but for the listener, I think that's important to point out.
So, before the clip that we saw at the beginning of this show popped up on my feed, courtesy of the great Eitan Fishberger. If you're not following him on X, go ahead and do that. Before that, the clip we're about to see or start seeing was going to be the topic of a show earlier in the week, and we postponed it because of events. But yeah, this very much fits in with what we saw from Tucker. So let's start watching the clip and we can pause and discuss.
Yeah, just quickly, I agree with Anders. I just realized we have people on the podcast, and nodding my head is sometimes not enough. So we should always
Well,
speak.
your video quality is so bad that we can't really tell when you're nodding your head.
Uh,
that we're seeing now right-wing bases. Who would have thought that Tucker Carlson, of all people, would sit there and be the #1 advocate against Zionism in America today? Candace Owens, did you guys see the Ted Cruz interview where Tucker Carlson rips into Ted Cruz and just completely destroys him? Matt Walsh likewise, and there's a huge Marjorie Taylor Greene. Sean King said to me when we were in the car once, he said, Sammy, you don't understand who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. She's the representative of the most racist area in Georgia. African Americans were told not to go to her area. She's now one of the loudest advocates against Zionism. But here's my point about the Ummah when you said that we've done everything we can. Why has that change taken place? Because we've started to deploy a power that we haven't maxed out yet. Trump is looking at Tucker Carlson, who's saying we shouldn't get involved. Candace Owens, we shouldn't get involved. Matt Walsh, we shouldn't get involved. Dave Smith, Trump needs to be impeached if he goes into Iran. So Donald Trump, because of that scream, because of you here in Kuala Lumpur, because of us in London, because of those in Berlin, in Rome, because we actually decided to speak about it, because it became relevant, because we decided to tweet about it, because we decided to because we decided to do da'wah at last instead of sleeping, what happened was Trump instead went to the Iranians and said to them, listen, I need a way out. I'm going to send 2 bombers. They're going to bomb, but what did Israel say? These 3 sites. Your scream, your voice, it has power. It shifted an entire U.S. foreign policy.
Let's pause. Let's pause. I don't remember how much more is left, but there's a bit, right? There's
Minute.
yeah. Okay, so this is a good time to pause. It's interesting because we said this on this show when the U.S. Bombed Fordo, and we praised that military action by the U.S., but we also noted that this could be Trump's way of saying, look, I did this, and now we're gonna stop. And he did say that immediately in a tweet. The time for peace is now, when after he announced what had been done. And this guy, Sami Hadi, right? That's his name. Some guy with ties
Hamdi,
to
yeah.
the Muslim Brotherhood, is praising that and taking credit. And his taking credit is not the way Trump takes credit for things. This is credit that he and his people probably deserve in turning the tide on the American right, in favor of of the jihadists and others.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hate to admit it, but I mean, he is right in what he's saying here, pretty much throughout here. So, I mean, this should be really a cautionary tale. I think this is almost a clip that should go viral as a warning to us. And exactly what you're saying about Trump, and one of the most infuriating events during the last 2 years is the fact that we, America and Israel, stopped short of taking out the Iranian regime, and yes, it is interpreted by our enemies as weakness and as appeasement. And I mean, this obviously go way back before October 7th, in pretty much every conflict that the United States has been involved in since World War II. We see a similar pattern, and you can apply the same to Israel and its ambition or efforts to try to come to terms with the Palestinians in through negotiations and things like that. It's appeasement, and appeasement doesn't work, and this man is he's spelling it out in a way admirably. I mean, he's an enemy, but you have to give him credit for putting his finger on what's going on.
Yeah, and I have to say on a quick side note, in terms of with Iran, so Israeli politician Avigdor Lieberman, who used to be a minister and is one of the leading anti-Netanyahu people, who really is mostly anti-Netanyahu more than really fits anywhere on the political map. and I think fancies himself the next prime minister, which is not going to happen. So he tweeted a warning that Iran might attack Israel during the holiday of Sukkot, which is, I believe, a couple days away, and lasts for a few days. And so I take everything he says with a grain of salt, and of course, even if not, it's not that they know what's coming, but Iran has been building up quickly and has learned the lessons of the previous round, and again, Israel and America left them there to learn the lessons. Like they could have finished the job, and the fact that they didn't means with certainty that Israelis who would not have otherwise died will die in the next round. And yeah, I very much believe, even if his timeline is wrong, that Lieberman is right on the fact that this is coming, and when it comes, it could be very, very bad. And what we just heard from this Muslim Brotherhood person, he can take credit for those deaths of Israelis in the future, in terms of the influence that he has had on the people who have influence on Trump. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly about this guy, Sami Hamdi. So after or sometime after October 7, he said, he celebrated it, and he said, Netanyahu did not envisage that for the first time since 1948, the Palestinians would actually retake land back from the Israelis. Netanyahu did not envisage that for the first time since 1948, the Palestinians would be able to hold those territories for more than 72 hours. Now, what does he mean when he say take back? Those parts of Israel were never part of the Palestinian territories, were never even planned to be part of the Palestinian territories, even under the original UN partition. So he is saying all of Israel is Palestine. He wants to destroy all of Israel. And this is the person who not only he is praising Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, Marjorie Taylor Greene, but if they got to talk to him, they would absolutely agree with him. These people, this section, I don't know if you want to put Dave Smith on the right, but this section of American right is absolutely anti-American. Is so anti-American that basically anybody who is an enemy of America is a friend of theirs. This is a trend or not a trend, this is the trend we're starting to see. This is something that was true for the leftists in America for a long time, for the communists who would absolutely go with the Soviet Union to destroy the American state. Now you have sections of the right who would basically, I mean, Tucker Carlson, he would basically tear up the Constitution to get Sharia law in. Dave Smith would absolutely want to see the destruction of American state, no matter who it would be from. Marjorie Taylor Greene is pushing every single anti-Semitic conspiracy she can find, and that's a congresswoman, ladies and gentlemen, if I can put it like that. So that's we were talking a long time about the what do you want to call it, the green-red alliance, the Muslim left alliance, but now you are starting to see a bit more actually meaningful alliance. If anything, Islamists have closer to the right in many ways, especially if you go to the regional way. I mean, who did Hitler have close friends here in these areas? So it absolutely makes sense that this is starting to happen, and it should scare everybody.
All right, let's scare everybody some more.
I have to give me a second.
Listen, I need a way out. I'm going to send 2 bombers. They're going to bomb. But what did Israel say? These 3 sites. Your scream, your voice, it has power. It shifted an entire US foreign policy. It stopped Trump from intervening in Iran itself. And this is the whole point. When people say, why come to Kuala Lumpur? Why go to these places? It's because the power is not there like you think it is. The power is here. We are achieving results. They said that when Trump comes to power, it will be disastrous, like for Muslims in America. Mahmoud Khalil, arrested, released. Rumaysat Oztur, arrested, released. Mohsen Mahdawi, arrested, released. American Muslims for Palestine, tried in Michigan, the case was dropped. Tried in Nevada, the case was dropped. They tried to pass the anti-boycott bill, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she pulled it. They tried to do a non-profit killer bill where the Attorney General would have the unilateral right to remove a tax-exempt status. Guess who removed that clause from the bill? Christian churches who said, why is Zionism intervening in terms of how we decide our non-profit? The reality is that people are making an effort.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Well, there's something kind of reminds me of what we talked about on the Daily Objective when we talked when we there was the quote from the woman who was out on the streets yesterday protesting supposedly in a pro-Palestine protest hours after the terrorist attack in Manchester, saying, I don't give a fuck about the Jewish community. That was her response. And she, didn't mind having her full name in the paper because that, they're that comfortable saying that they are, good with the killing of Jews. This guy also putting out his playbook out there because he knows there's nothing to worry about. Like nobody's gonna call him out on it. Nobody's gonna do anything about it. Their whole thing with the nonprofits. Like, what are you what are you telling us there about how you use nonprofits? Anyway, Anders.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting here to see how he's using or interpreting some of the strength of the American system, legal system, as a weakness too. So we have to differentiate between true American weakness in the sense of our foreign policy and not carrying it out in a rational and objective way that protects and respects individual rights versus in this case, and I think I don't know about all these names that he brought up, but I suspect that quite a few of them that they were released were based on First Amendment grounds. They had been speaking out for issues that we disagree with, that we find despicable. But in the United States of America, they have the right to speak out about these things. So that's a strength of the system that he is trying to turn into a weakness here. And obviously he would, if he were in charge, he would. He's not a free First Amendment champion, that's for sure.
Yeah, now I do want to push back a little bit on the for-profit thing. That should not exist. Like government basically
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean that part. It was just the first he rattled off a few names and said they were released and things like that. Yeah, we can get to the for-profit versus not profit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So on that point, like government, when you set up an organization of any type, gives you templates, and you have to choose one of these templates. Is it a limited liability company? Is it a partnership? Is it a for-profit, nonprofit? And that should not exist. And yeah, like if you use an organization, of course, any type of organization for promoting criminal activities and violence, that organization should be then the target of the government.
Yes. And so when you say that it shouldn't exist, sorry, I mean, in a free society, you would certainly have multiple or legal constructs, whether it's corporations or LLCs or something. I don't know what it would look like exactly, but the for-profit, not-for-profit distinction would not be there because it would be a moot point, because there wouldn't be any taxes to pay. So
yeah. And of course, yeah, the very existence of this kind of separation between for-profit and non-profit is unfair and is government intervention
Exactly.
in how people choose to deal with each other.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to not only the non-profit organizations, not only is the fact that the government is involved in this way. Technically, every company should be tax exempt because yeah, there should be no forced taxation. When it comes to these templates for companies, I'm wondering how many would there even be under a free society, since a different setup of a company is oftentimes to get a certain amount of either government bonuses or tax exemptions. But even putting all that aside, non-profit is downright anti-American. So no wonder these people are pushing for it. So yeah, absolutely. Nothing like that should exist. Now they are existing because of how much benefit you're getting from the tax exempt status. I mean, he mentioned the churches. Churches are the ones who, of course, benefit from it. One of the most. But yeah, when these organizations start getting used, or when organizations are being set up that are actively supporting the enemies of the American state, those should be absolutely, at the very least, investigated and possibly shut down. Again, FBI, when it's there, they have a job. They investigate it every single, whenever an organization starts getting problematic, they do investigate it. KKK was investigated by the FBI because of potentially supporting terrorism. Any single organization that could do something similar. I mean, in the UK, what was that organization that was proscribed as a terrorist? Something
Palestine Action.
Palestine Action. That was an organization that was actively supporting crimes. That was actively supporting not only that some members do something crazy. No, the official company was praising the actions of breaking a law. That is, if you do not want to call it a terrorist organization, that is a criminal organization of some kind, and none of these should be allowed. In the America, you have a lot of these organizations actively going and shutting down hotels, shutting down streets. That should not be tolerated.
Yeah, and Palestine Action actually took responsibility for an attack on this country's military. So yeah, they are beyond the point where it's just supporting terrorism. It's actually taking part in terrorist activities. Um, Okay, I want to bring this up, although this wasn't a part of the show. So if you guys have nothing to say, that's understandable. But a couple of days ago, there was a show on this channel about some stuff that Megyn Kelly said, and I think we're gonna do another one on some other things she said. But it just comes to mind in the context of Tucker, and also in the context of this coming up earlier today on my Hebrew podcast. You know, there's something to somebody like Megyn Kelly helping move this conversation in the direction that it's going. Because Megyn Kelly, when she was at Fox, she was seemingly more reasonable than most people at Fox. And then when she was at whatever channel it was, she was in whatever left-wing channel, she was more reasonable. That she seemingly one of the more reasonable people. And she's talking about Tucker and she's saying, first of all, she's saying he's a friend, and she's, that's also there should be a point where somebody who's a friend goes in a certain direction and you no longer want to be their friend. But she is actually misrepresenting what he's saying. She says he's been critical of Israel. That's not what makes Tucker special in a sense in his approach to Israel. He's gone full conspiracy theorist and anti-Semite. So and she's actually pretending otherwise. Anders, just generally speaking, what do you think of
Do you want to play the clip?
uh, why not? All right.
I know what Hamas does, trust me, and I've been covering it. But that doesn't mean that the devastation and destruction can go on forever. Israel's now taken out Hezbollah. It's decimated Hamas. It had a war with Iran that we almost got dragged into, in more full flower. It's time to wrap it up in this American's view. I am entitled to that opinion, and I will not be shamed out of it by being called an anti-Semite. Now, as for my decision to platform Tucker, too bad, too fucking bad. I love him. We're friends. I don't think he's an anti-Semite at all, but I don't really care. I think Tucker's a very important, valuable voice in the national conversation.
Okay,
I'm thrilled.
all right,
Candace,
all right.
Candace is
We can
I don't
pause it
know.
there. Yeah, this clip was shared earlier by Bosch Foston, and yeah, there's a few things there when it's at the very end there, you hear yeah, I don't think he's an anti-Semite, but I don't care. I don't know if that's a slip of the tongue, but seriously, she clearly doesn't care, even if she didn't intend to put it that way. There's a bunch of things that because of Daniel's terrible internet connection you couldn't see, but she goes, "It's time, in this American's view, it's time to wrap it up." Wrap what up? Was there any purpose to the war initially? Was it just to just, go in and kill some kids as the left in this country tells us, and now the right is also telling us? You know, there's a reason you go to war, and then you end it when your mission is accomplished. So yeah, Anders, we'll take
Well,
whatever.
it's very easy to wrap it up, just Hamas is just putting down their weapons and giving up, and this is over. Could have been over 2 years ago. Could not have happened in the first place if Israel and others would have done the right things leading up to October or over the past 50, 60, 70 years, as I've talked about many times here. But I mean, so Megyn Kelly as a person, so this is the first time I hear this. I don't follow Megyn Kelly. I basically never watch her. But she's, apart from the wrapping up comment, she's obviously hedging her bets here. I'm a friend, I love Tucker Carlson and things like that. And by doing that, she's aiding and abetting evil, because Tucker Carlson is, I mean, there is no doubt in anybody's mind who is just somewhat focused on the fact and being objective here that Tucker Carlson is he has crossed the line of being an apologist for Nazis, for anti-Zionist, and I would say he is an outright anti-Zionist these days.
And an outright anti-Semite as well, an outright anti-American. I mean, getting to the point where you're advocating for Sharia law. Remember, this is what is considered the right. This is why, Anders, the title of your book is something we should listen to at every, keep in our mind whenever we hear these people, and when I say these people, I mean these people on the left or so-called left, these people on the so-called right. And yeah, people focus on one of the sides and they are disgusted and side with the other side. The disgusted
Absolutely right. I mean, this is a battle on the same side. If your spectrum is collectivism versus individualism, if it is rational selfishness versus altruism, all of what we're seeing here, whether it's Megyn Kelly or if it's someone on the left, they're fighting in the same. They're on the same side of the spectrum, and that infighting, they're basically rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, but there is no fundamental questioning of their basic ideas, and in so doing, they're moving us slowly in the authoritarian direction. And yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, wow, she's so brave. She's so cool of like, oh, you don't like me talking to Tucker? Well, what did you say? Too fucking bad. I mean, is it like a children's game for you? Like, we are talking about this guy is spreading conspiracies, is being anti-Semitic, and your answer is as you said, maybe it's a slip of a tongue. I don't care if he's anti-Semitic, or maybe he's anti-Semitic, but I don't care, or something like that. It's no, these things matters, and you are actively supporting evil. When she said, "I not have a right to have an opinion?" I mean, that's such a cowardly shutting down of speech, because you're in America. Everybody has right and opinion almost since the republic was started, since constitution was ratified a bit later. It's number one country when it comes to free speech. You do not have to make the point of, do I not have a right to have an opinion, or have a right? No, it's, you have a dog shit opinion. That's what is being problematic here, not the fact that you are talking about it. So I mean, yeah, people like that, as I've said, these are the people who allow the evil to come into America, who basically allow for something like this to happen. Like the fact that Tucker Carlson is not completely discredited by the mainstream right is concerning. I mean, the right goes on and on about how Democrats they do not condemn BLM, or they do not condemn Antifa, and here you have people being very chummy with very scary parts of the right.
Yeah, and again, the point here that I'm gonna reiterate is, for me, is, Tucker Carlson has been in mainstream media, but he's always been a kind of a goof at the very least, from his bow tie on Crossfire on CNN to his bizarre show on Fox News that, had high ratings because of how bizarre it is, to what he became as soon as he got fired from Fox, or what he, who he told us that he is. Megyn Kelly is somebody who has this, at least public appearance of respectability. She seems more serious. And so for her to do this, and to do this in this way, what I'm gonna go back to this. What makes it time to wrap it up? How is it time to wrap it up? Like, is it the time that has passed? Is it the number of people who are, or the volume at which the people against Israel are now screaming it from the rooftops, or from the streets? Uh, what is the argument there? And she doesn't ever make an argument, as far as I can tell. She just gives her 2 cents, and then goes on to play the victim, which is a thing that I've seen in multiple clips of her from her show. She is now the victim because she is pro-Israel, but she just says it's time to wrap it up, and Israel is doing bad things. Parting thoughts, and where can people find you, Anders?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what she would say about World War II. Should we have wrapped it up once we got into Paris, and then kind of leave the Germans alone? It's yeah. I'm all for wrapping it up, but wrapping it up means Israeli victory once and for all. You can find me on Substack, andersingemarson.substack.com. My book that you mentioned before, Think Right or Wrong, Not Left or Right, is available on Amazon. And I will be at the Irreplaceable Spark Conference in Orange County here in a few weeks, and I hope to see you there.
Daniel, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
I mean, I've made most of my final thoughts. The fact that a lot of the mainstream right is allowing this to continue, or is saying that this is like an okay ideas to bring in to the mainstream right, is concerning. The fact that those extreme parts of the right include basically alliance with Islamists should really give you some scare. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Damn Dan. Czech election has already started, but they do it over 2 days. So tomorrow we'll be covering the results of the Czech election. So on my channel, so people can check that out.
And yeah, I will also be at the Irreplaceable Spark conference. Actually, all three of us will be there, as well as many others, including people from this channel, like Michael Kaufman, like Jonathan Honig, um, like Mark Pellegrino, and people who are not on this channel, but you should absolutely listen to, people you know and people you should know. So make sure you are there. Tickets are at objectivism.co.uk. Link is in the chat and the description. October 25th, 26th. It's a weekend. It's right next to the airport, so you can fly in, fly out without missing moment of work. And yeah, it will be uh, absolutely worth your time and money. So we hope to see you there. We also hope to see you tomorrow on the Daily Objective. And until then, thanks Anders, thanks Daniel, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.